All right, what is up, everyone? It is Proma, and I was gonna work on a video talking about the whole Xbox is the new TikTok competitor, and they're fighting with short-term content. And then the GameCube came out, big nuclear announcement from Steam, so that's gonna get postponed. And I kind of want to do like a more analysis thing. But in the meantime, I did see that the Game Awards dropped their nominees for 2025, and I haven't gone fully into detail or like seen everything broken out, but I did hear that it is basically the Expedition 33 awards and everyone's happy to get second place. Figured I'd weigh in a little bit on what I think. Yeah, so it's all the usual stuff. I hope T1's in here. Player's voice is not open yet, and that's gonna be fucking Arc Raiders winning with all the FPS bros. I don't know, every time I hear them like complain about multiplayer games not winning it, I just think of that one meme of it doesn't have a ball or guns in it, we're not playing it. But little do they know, Gustav is tight with it. Alright, game of the year. I mean, this is easy. Clair Obscur. This feels like an honorable mention because Jeff and Kojima, they're like tight, you know? Donkey Kong Bonanza. I haven't played it. I've seen gameplay of it. I think for a Nintendo game, phenomenal. Hades 2 also massive, but I just don't think comparatively it hits as big as the others do. And then Silksong felt like hype, but it under-delivered, and I think it was a victim of just being so grossly overhyped that, you know, people were bound to be upset or disappointed by it. And then KCDC 2, or KCD 2, my bad, seems like probably the best and most likely to win top RPG or RPG of the year. But I just think compared to Clair Obscur and how many nominations it got flat out, it's very telling that the game did a lot of things right. And it is mostly journalists that do end up deciding what wins, and Clair Obscur was highly rated both through journalism and through players. Best game direction, awarded for outstanding creative vision, innovation, and game design. I mean, I'm biased as hell, man. It's Clair Obscur.
Bruh.
Oh, who knew? Who knew? Death Stranding 2 and Ghost of Yote. I've seen gameplay of them. I don't own a PS5. But I do want to pick up Yote when it comes to PC eventually. They just look like more of the same. So even though the game direction and design is good, they're not really innovating on something new. Same thing with Hades 2. I think it's a good game, but what is it doing differently? I mean, maybe I'm just overhyping. But you know, Clair Obscur, you're in a painting basically, and the whole world is like a merging of Belle Epoque and whatever other art theme they picked. The other good one, so I would do like 1, 2, and then 3. And I just don't think these two should be here at all. Best art direction, yep. Next question. Best score in music. Okay, Darren Korb. I love his music. I've even learned some of it on the guitar. Silksong music is also phenomenal. Oh, they had Ludwig. Oh, I thought it was the guy that did the Oppenheimer movie. Was it Ludwig Göransson? But I do have to give it to Lorien Testard for Clair Obscur. Like, in all seriousness, music is such a big thing for me. And the fact that he's still #1, I believe, as of the filming date, 11/19, on the classical charts is just insane to me. But he also came from nothing. And if Lorien wasn't in here, I would give it to Darren, because I think he has a very unique, coming into music creation, being a former, I believe, rock guitarist, if I remember correctly. So he does have a very unique sound profile to the stuff he creates. Woodkid is also phenomenal, but I just think comparatively, like, even if you look at numeric metrics alone, like, Lorien just blew it out of the water and honestly exceeded everyone's expectations for what a video game soundtrack can deliver. Now, the fact that it wasn't even an option at the Grammys, I think kind of makes sense to me, because, you know, it's super industry, and Ubisoft had like 2 or 3 slots in there, and I think they have like 5 or 6 total. So if you're not already in the club, it's very hard for them to bring a nobody in there, because it's not really a fan-based award, I guess. Best audio design. I'm gonna break my 5-vote tradition and actually go with Battlefield 6. They have the war tape setting, which I think is just phenomenal when you're playing through it. Silent Hill F just feels like a very safe up there option, and then I'm not familiar enough with Death Stranding 2 or Yote's sound, but from the gameplays I've seen, it's also solid. Like, you know, these are the heavy hitters, but Battlefield 6 really went above and beyond with the whole, like, war tapes audio. Best performance, and you're making me pick from 3 Clair Obscur people? Ooh. Wait, Troy Baker, wasn't he also in Death Stranding 2? Or am I thinking of something else? Yeah, he is in there. He's the guy with the red coat. Who is he in Indiana? Is he indie? Oh, he's indie. I played that for like a week when it was on. I mean, it was on Game Pass, so I played it for like a week and then just got bored of it. Reinstalled Tomb Raider. But in terms of vocal performance, the Yote voice acting is okay. I don't think it's anything too crazy. Troy Baker did a good job. I do think Kato went crazy with it in terms of like the vocal range. But for Charlie Cox being in the studio for 4 hours total and producing that level of performance, like I gotta give it to him, even though, you know, Ben and Jen English are significantly more involved in like video game voiceovers and things like that. Like Charlie, for a first timer, at least to my knowledge, a first timer, kill me if I'm wrong, aced it. Innovation and accessibility. Haven't played that. I gotta give it to Shadows. Biased because it's the one that I've played, but like any Ubisoft game, at least the modern ones, are super accessibility focused, and I do like, you know,
Weird Company, but I do like that they're very consumer forward in the sense of, hey, you should be able to play a game regardless of what issues you might have going on, and you can also scale the difficulties, like fully customize them. You buy the game from them and you can play it however you want. Not saying that they've had like a phenomenal track record or that they're a good company, but they do really put a lot of effort into making sure their games are accessible. And again, I'm talking out of my ass partially because the other four completely missing from my noggin.
All right, Games for Impact. I'm super familiar with this one, actually. It's a very beautiful message behind the game. The other four, I'm not hyper aware of what they're specifically doing, but regardless, I mean, bias as hell because this is the only one I know, but I do think this is a beautiful one, and I do hope it wins. All right, best ongoing. It's got to be Fortnite, right? Because Helldivers is 3 years old, 3 years old. Marvel Rivals fell off a cliff. No Man's Sky has always been steady. Final Fantasy XIV does also have an insane fan base, but you can play as Peter Griffin in Fortnite. No, I think that's pretty funny.
Holy crap, I'm in Fortnite! Oh my gosh, this is so freaking epic! Holy crap, Donald Trump! Hello, Peter. Welcome to Fortnite.
Best community support. It's been on a roll. Not familiar with 14. I do think Helldivers 2 though is. Oh, but they're between No Man's Sky. So can we even give Helldivers best community support if they like created the problem and then fixed the problem? I guess technically Sony created the problem, as they phrased it, but I gotta go with No Man's Sky. Best independent game. Blueprints was phenomenal. This is also really, like, these are all solid, but no one's talking about these games as a front runner currently compared to Expedition 33, and this, I sound like the biggest E33 shell around, and I'm gonna own up to it. I played the game. It's probably my game of the decade so far, and I don't really roll credits on a lot of games. I tend to buy them, play them halfway, and then move on or fall back into like a pit. Oh! If it's a good game, I'll roll credits on it. Not if it's good, if it's captivating and keeps me coming back. Best debut indie game created by a new independent studio. I think if Claire wasn't here, it would probably be Dispatch, because it does have a lot of that old Telltale Walking Dead game formula, but super refined. But since E33's in the running and they're like Thanos at this point, gotta go with them. Best action game. I feel bad because I do like Hades too, but Battlefield 6 was so big, and low-key EA winning something might make the suits and the big wigs upstairs be like, oh,
Maybe we did something right. Let's redo that. Instead of the recent slot fest they've had going on.
Best action adventure game. Where's Expedition 33? That game has action and adventure. I don't want to sound like a Silksong hater, but from what I've heard people say, it was a fun but miserable experience. It's like the Dark Souls of Hollow Knight, basically. Not to say Hollow Knight was super forgiving either. Yote, on the other hand, like the combat just looks so crisp and smooth. Split Fiction was also a very good storytelling game. I don't know, I'm like waffling on, trying to figure out how to like relate these games to action adventure. And I think solely based off of the whole puzzle solving, combat with traversal and all that, it's got to go to indie because that is like the action adventure movie genre, right? Like, I'm not crazy, right? Avowed? Outer Worlds 2 got into here? Oh man, I can hear the Arc Raider people being like, did the game come out too late? I saw someone talking about it too. They're like, oh, what's the deadline for when the games qualify? Outer Worlds 2 isn't here, and that one came out end of October, I think, within 3 days of Arc, if I'm not mistaken. Monster Hunter Wilds was fire when I played it, but that game fell off a cliff, and they're just not doing numbers anymore. It's also the same Monster Hunter formula, player customization and progression. So the thing I hated about Avowed is when you're going through it, you're hard gated based on the level of your armor and your weapon. It's like something insane. Like, you either take 25% more damage and deal 25% less damage per tier that you're under, so you're forced to like interact with the world, and it can be in an organic way, but you have to get the high level crystals. I'm drawing a blank on the name, I'll put it up on screen, but you have to get those things, and you have to collect them like you're a villager from freaking Minecraft to upgrade your wood sword to an iron sword to a diamond sword to an obsidian sword. That's even a thing. I'm like Turbo Unk, forgive me. But it's such a frustrating system when you're forced to halt your main story progress to go and then interact with the building and leveling system, when, in my opinion, I'm not saying it should be optional, but it should be more streamlined into the story and not hard to progress without that. And I don't know if they've updated it since then. I think I played through half the game and ended up just getting not disassociated, but almost bored when I realized that there's not a whole lot actually going on underneath the surface. The combat was fun though, it was very fluid. And I just think they need to stop trying, like, Microsoft owns them and Bethesda. They need to stop trying to be in Bethesda's shadow and instead move on to do their own things, because Outer Worlds, if I recall, was branded as New Vegas in space, and it just hasn't lived up to that. Like, I've been playing through Outer Worlds 2. I think it's a good game. I like it better than the first. The first one I just found like boring. Like, it didn't grab me in, and it felt corny almost. At least 2, the story's interesting. I love a good revenge plot. So I guess there they kind of have the whole New Vegas thing running where, you know, someone comes, they double cross you. In this case, you didn't get double crossed in Vegas, you just got freaking popped. But you go through an explosion or whatever, wake up after being in cryostasis for like 10 years, and you're like, yeah, I gotta go kill the person that did this to me. I haven't progressed far enough yet to know where it's going beyond the first few hours, but it is a very interesting game. KCD 2, however, like, out of all of these from an RPG standpoint, this is a story game. You have the Picto system, which I loved, where you can, if you're like a math nerd, Excel sheet nerd, you can go really in depth with it and make like the most turbo broken builds. But I don't think that alone should enable you to win top RPG category. Outer Worlds 2 is solid, but like nothing comes close to KCD 2 and how involved and not grindy, but realistic the systems are. Like, if you want to feel like you're living in a medieval kingdom, just play KCD 2. Go through that process, learn everything. It's a game grounded in realism, and you do play the role of a person in that time period to a relatively accurate sense. The rest of these games, while they do have some RPG elements, they're nowhere near as in-depth as KCD 2 is. Best fighting game? Damn, Street Fighter 6 really didn't come out this year. I was never big into Mortal Kombat. 2XKO, I played it. I don't like how it feels. It feels too arcadey and a bit stiff on the sticks for me. And that's like with Fight Stick and with a controller. I think Fatal Fury, City of Wolves, like, I'm not familiar with that franchise at all. And then Virtua Fighter, I think that's the one that's big in Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's a remaster, if I'm not mistaken, but I remember hearing those games are like massive in Mexico for whatever reason. Like, I gotta give it to Capcom solely because Street Fighter is still solid, and 2x KO to me at least feels like a shallow replication of it, and they did spend like 6 years or so in development hell, kind of going in circles. I just think for the amount of dev time they put into the game, the end result feels very lackluster and not full copycat-ish. Not saying that Street Fighter or Guilty Gear, like all those own the whole 2D fighter genre, but it just doesn't feel good comparatively, and none of my fighting game friends have ended up sticking with it. I also dropped it. Not that they're ever my main game. I'm like a filthy casual, but I do love a good fighting game. All right, best family game. For the best game appropriate for family play, irrespective of genre or platform. Now, I was always a Sonic over Mario fan, not to be different, but that's the truth. I think if you want a good family game though, I think the default is always Mario Kart. Donkey Kong Bonanza is a great Nintendo game, but I do think, because I am familiar with most of these aside from Lego Party, but Lego Voyagers is a, I think, beautifully artsy game. Yeah, I guess if I was an adult and I wanted to play a game and my kid was like really, holy shit, I am an adult, I don't have a kid, but hypothetically, if I was an adult and I had a kid, I would really want to sit down and do like Lego Voyagers with them if they're into that. I mean, who doesn't love Legos? But I think it's a game that's fun for both the adult and the family member you're playing with, or if you're like, I mean, if you're like a husband and wife, or husband and husband, wife and wife, you can't ever go wrong with Split Fiction. Like, it's just such a good story. Yeah, I gotta give it to Lego Voyagers. I just think what they've done is beautiful. The game is an art form, and I think everyone can enjoy that too, with it being Lego. Best sim strategy. What you know about that? Sid Meier's Civilization 7. All the real ones know Civ 5 is where it's at. All my homies hate Civ 6. FF Tactics, like, yeah, I honestly haven't heard of any of these aside from FF Tactics, Civ 7, and Jurassic World. And I'm not really qualified to comment on these, other than like I'm a huge Civ fanboy. But me and the homies only pick it up when it's on sale for like $8 or less. So we dabble. I was the peak of COVID. We were all playing Civ 5 because we picked it up for, no, Civ 6 for the first time. It was like $4 or $6 on the Epic Store. So we all picked it up peak COVID, all in uni, in our dorms, just grinding it in between classes, like group playthrough sessions. That was the most fun I've had with Civ to date. These games have always been fond. I've been playing Civ since like Civ 3, casually. I think I was like maybe 11 when I got that one. On the old, I think it was a 360 that my uncle got it for me on. But yeah, I've been a huge like Civ, not fanboy or like super fan. So I gotta give best sim purely based on they're the only one I actually know and can kind of comment on the quality of. Best sports / racing game. There's really not enough of these that come out. Like EA Sport FC 26, I haven't heard anything new from them. Rematch was the most unique one. The F1 game I'm not familiar with, and then Mario Kart World and Sonic World, or Racing Cross Worlds, are two sides of the same coin, different flavors, I do think. But I gotta give it to Rematch in terms of how new it is and how different of a spin it put on the sport genre for soccer. It's almost like Rocket League, but with your feet instead of race cars. All right, best multiplayer. Ooh, Arc Raiders is in there. So for me, with Arc, I played it and I just didn't click with it. I think part of that too was the friend I played with is a very, very passive player. So we went like 4 or 5 runs deep in 80 minutes and didn't encounter a single soul, made it out with loot, and I was just thinking, like, I get the appeal behind the game and I've seen the clips and stuff and it looks phenomenal, but at the end of the day, a game like that is what I would call a time sink game. Same with like Tarkov, same with like Dota, League, Smite, WoW, like all those, where once you already have one like go-to default game, I think it's really hard to swap over to another one, especially when it's not one that you're like on the edge or over the edge to play regularly. Battlefield 6 is also phenomenal. These are all like top multiplayer games. I just wouldn't count Split Fiction just solely on it being, it is online multiplayer. It's just tough. This is probably one of the tougher categories to pick because these are all good games and you can make a compelling argument for all of them. Like Peak is multiplayer with friends, and then Elden Ring Night Rain, I think honestly is probably 4th on this list. It was really good, but they underestimated how quickly Souls players will go through content. So I think me and the boys beat the game. Yeah, we did a full run through of everything. within the first week and a half, 2 weeks, and like it's like, oh, we can keep replaying the same things. But at that point, we'd all moved on, and then they dropped the challenge mode night bosses, and some of us came back into that, but I think by that point the ship had sailed for a lot of people. They do have a new DLC coming out, which looks interesting, but I don't think it's enough to make me reinstall it and play it. And I don't think I splurged and got the collector's bundle or whatever season pass bundle there was. I think, yeah, that's like 4th for me. Split Fiction I have to put 5th. At the end of the day, it is a forced 2-player game, or co-op experience where you get as much from the game as you do playing with someone else. Like, you're required to play with someone else to get the full experience, is the way I see it. And I just think that kind of doesn't make it irrelevant. I mean, all these games you can play solo, right? BF6 is good, but the fact Friend Slop got on here and, Arc Raiders is there, I gotta give it to Friend Slop. It's also a fun, casual game. Like, my friends who hardly play games will hop on and be like, yo, can we play some Peak? It's just fun and very easy to get into. And I think that, like, low barrier to entry is why it's the best one, in my opinion. All these other games, you need, like, some type of, high intensity skill, hand-eye coordination. This is just holding the climb button and calling it a day. Plus, there's some funny shit that happens on Peak regularly when I play, so it's gotta get my vote. Most anticipated game. This is laughable. This is laughable. I mean, comparatively. Resident Evil Requiem, if you're into RE, this is like all you care about. This is all I've seen my like RE friends talk about, post about. Witcher 4 I think is good, but everything just pales in comparison to GTA. That being said, I do think GTA 6 is like so grossly overhyped that I just hope Rockstar delivers. Because the last thing I'd want is for them to drop the game and then people are like, oh,
This is terrible. Really, all the time for what? All those delays for what?
I mean, they're a killer studio. Like, they're big. They make a shit ton off GTA Online. But they do put a lot of care and effort into their games, and they have so much goodwill that they just can't afford to like piss that away with a bad launch. So yeah, this is like all anyone's talking about. Like, you have developers moving their release windows for when GTA 6 is launching. No one's done that with any of these other games. Maybe they've steered clear, but if The Witcher's dropping, I don't think any of these other games would move over for it. Content Creator of the Year.
Who are these people?
I'm kidding. Burt Peanut, I've only seen his shit on TikTok and the occasional YouTube short, but he is hilarious. It's very loud equals funny. Moist Critical, I don't know. I love Charlie. I've been watching his content for years now. Actually, like part of his channel and like work is what kind of inspired me to get into YouTube. I mean, he's been with it for what, like 12 to 15 years at this point. Like, he's turbo unk, but yeah, he's out of this list, he is my favorite regular creator that I go to. I'll watch his videos when they pop up. Kaisa Nat is good, but I don't think he's done anything super crazy community wise. And in terms of impact, for those out of the know, Cadril started a, not LEC, whatever the one division below it is, for League of Legends, like basically their amateur league, called Los Ratones, with 4 streamers and a prospective player, Velia. I'm butchering that name. They kind of were like, yeah, let's just do this and see how it goes. And they did eventually get a full LEC slot, but the fact that they were pulling in more viewers than official matches through like LEC streams was just insane. And like, if you had a Los Ratone versus whoever stream going on and LEC was playing at the same time, people just aren't tuning into the LEC. They'd rather just see Cadril and his personality. Not to mention, this guy co-streamed League World Champs, and Buddy made a bag. Yeah, he's just very entertaining, and I think what he's done for the community as a whole has been very positive. Give or take, there's the whole issue with like the Saudi money for the Esports World Cup, but I think in general he's done probably the best. But then again, Moist Critical does do a lot in terms of esports spaces, but I just think Cadril has more of a zero to hero rise than the rest of these guys have this year, whereas they were already established and had like existing projects they kept falling to. I also, forgive me, I'm not familiar with Sakura Miko. I'm assuming they're a VTuber based on the thing. I guess technically the Burnt Peanut, could you say he's also a VTuber? But I gotta give it to Cadril. Like, out of all these goats, he's the goat of the goats, I fear. Best esports game. This is good. Never a Dota fan. Guilty pleasure. Valorant, not bad. But if you're gonna vote Valorant, you might as well vote Counter-Strike. And me being the filthy little degen, I gotta vote League. They have Faker. Counter-Strike has Eastern Europeans and me. Best esports athlete, and Faker's on the list. The guy that won Worlds back to back 3 times. Oh, but Chovy's on here. Easy. The best esports team. Where's T1? I gotta go Genji because they're the only ones I'm familiar with, man. Where my head's at. And I do want to get that like bigger picture video of the Gabe Cube, as we've been calling it, and what that means for Xbox, out to you guys soon. But yeah, that's where my head's at, and I want to share just the thought process I had. I know some of the categories were a lot less in depth than others. I don't really like to talk out of my ass if I don't know what I'm saying, so I'll try to disclaimer it, you know, usually verbally when I'm coming on to stuff like that. But yeah, anyways, thank you for sticking around, and till next time, Proma out.